Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green with Scott Ott and Bill Whittle, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Now, as you may know, one of my jobs over at PJ Media is to drunk blog. This is a thing I invented back in 2003. Election nights, presidential debates, big congressional hearings, and all the rest. And as we're taping this now, we are in the brief resting period between the two nights of the second Democratic debate. And, gentlemen, I have to tell you, about halfway through the first night, which was dominated by the fireworks between the so called moderates and the so called progressive wings of the party, I had a thought about halfway through that even though I had a huge day and a late night last night and many cocktails, I still was unable to fall asleep for a couple hours after I got into bed. And that thought was, what if one of these jokers wins in 2020? And the thought was just, oh my God, because we're reaching a point here in this debate where the moderate position represented, the most moderate position we saw represented in the first night's debate was John Delaney, who staked out his actually, this makes him a conservative Democrat. The conservative Democratic position is we won't take away all private health insurance. That's where the party is. What if one of these guys wins next year, Scott?
Well, it's not gonna be enough for just one of these guys to win. There also has to be some turnover in the Senate, and I would think even more turnover in the House of Representatives, so that they have enough of a majority there to get things done. And so, I guess my faith in the United States of America to be able to survive in a bunker until the radiation levels have become livable, it sustains me, as it were. I think we can get through most anything. The candidates that were on that stage last night, most of whom will vanish in the next couple of months as they realize that they don't stand a chance at all, except for the ones like, probably Delaney, who is a former congressman from Maryland. I think because, what do former congressmen do but run for some other office? So he doesn't really need a lot of money to continue to do that. He's sort of the John Kasich of the Democratic Party. He can just hang around forever.
Yeah, except I think Democrats actually like him, which is not the case for Kasich.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's hoping for a spot at the convention, perhaps, to give a speech endorsing crazy Bernie Sanders. I think that the Republicans should not trifle with this. We should not think that it's not possible for the Democratic Party to nominate somebody like what we've seen so far in this current crop. On the other hand, I don't think we should worry. We should focus on doing what we do best, and that is, clinging to the truth, hewing to the Constitution, getting voter turnout increased in each of those districts around the country, so that no matter who resides in the White House, we'll still have enough of a force on Capitol Hill to be able to restrain the worst tendencies of the chief executive.
Bill, to give you an idea of how far the Democrats have moved just since 2009, in the year-long debate before Obamacare was passed into law, the reason we got Obamacare is even when the Democrats held the White House, when they had 60 seats in the Senate and I want to say a 45-seat majority in the House. It was pretty huge after that disastrous 2008 election, which frankly the GOP pretty much deserved. The nation didn't. The GOP did. The reason we got Obamacare is even with these huge Democratic majorities and a red diaper baby in the form of Barack Obama sitting in the Oval Office, there was not support for what was called the public option. That is, you could buy into some form of Medicare or Medicaid, whatever they're going to call this thing. The support didn't exist among that huge Democratic majority. So Obamacare was the awful compromise they came up with instead. And in just the really short amount of time since then, about 10 years, which is not very long in terms of public policy, the argument on the Democratic side is whether to make the public option mandatory, whether to crank up the public option like the frog in the pot of water, or whether to keep the public option actually optional. Does this frighten you how far left the Democrats have moved in so short a time?
I think getting into specifics like the healthcare position is kind of looking a little bit too much at the trees,
Yeah.
and not enough at the forest. Uh, as we've said many times, I don't know how they're going to get out of this pickle. They're going to either have a radical or they're going to have a moderate, and if they, whichever one they have, they're going to lose the support of the other ones. But I think your question is a profoundly good question, and that question was, what if one of these people actually gets elected? And if the presidency goes to the Democrats, then I fervently hope that it goes to the most extreme left wing Democrat. If we're going to lose the presidency, I want to lose it to the biggest barking nut job out there, because Barack Obama was able to do the damage that he did because he figured out pretty early that if I'm going to try and explain away 1,000 Sundays with Reverend Wright, I'd better do it in front of an American flag factory. I mean, if I'm gonna be talking about how I'm going to cut the nation's defense, I'd better say that I'm doing this for the troops. The whole thing is a scam. It's a giant lie. If they ran on what they actually believe, they would lose. And now they're so desperate that they're actually running on what they actually believe. And if it turns out that we are going to lose the presidency, I don't want to lose the presidency to Joe Biden or somebody who is going to slowly and reasonably continue to dissect the country and take all of these institutions apart. If we're going to lose, I want to lose to somebody who's saying that we are going to basically ban air travel in the United States because of carbon dioxide and global warming. And I want somebody who's going to say that the tax rate now is going to go up to. I want Bernie. I want Bernie. I want. If the American people are going to vote themselves some socialism, and that's what they're going to get either way if they get the Democratic Party into the White House. If they're going to vote themselves socialism, then I want them to vote themselves socialism as it exists now and as they intend it to be. And the sooner we get there, the sooner we get out of it. It's a meme that's been making the rounds lately, but I haven't heard it a whole long time ago. But it's pretty new, but it's spot on. Socialism. You vote your way in and you shoot your way
Oh
out.
yeah, that's
And
a great
and
one.
and if we're going to have to shoot our way out, I'd rather do it sooner rather than later. And and so if we're going to lose, I want to lose to a crackpot, because we had Obama as socialism light, and as obviously as he's told us, and he went to Harvard, so he ought to know. There's no way to possibly have economic growth above 1% a year anymore. That's just not feasible. It's not a button you can push to make that happen. So if we're going to have socialism light followed by pretty aggressive defensive capitalism and record unemployment and strong economy and all the rest of it, if they really are going to change, if the American people are so stupid to change their minds to try this socialism thing, then I say, if we're going to get your socialism, let's get it full bore in the face so you can see what it is you're actually voting for. Because I think personally, I would like to see the reaction of somebody like Bernie Sanders and AOC and all the rest when they realize that if you decide to make the income tax rate 93%, if you make more than $400,000, 414, I think it was for Bernie last year. If you're going to make more than $414,000 and then they start taxing you at 97%, I want the country to see what happens when every single business owner in the country decides that they're going to make $413,999, and anything more than that is just, you're fired. You're fired too. That store is closed. This is let go. If you think I'm going to work for 7 cents on the dollar to pay for people to tell me I'm a racist and a monster, no, I'll just stop right there, and then America will see what they bought, and the sooner they see what they bought, the sooner they'll want to trade this lemon back in.
Bill, you gave me a thought here. I think it was H.L. Mencken. And
First time for everything.
yeah, you gave me the longer version of what H.L. Mencken said. Must have been 80 years ago or so now, which was democracy is based on the premise that the people know what they want and deserve to get it, good and hard. And I just, I've, I've always loved that line. I usually tend to modify it that it's democratic socialism is when the people ask for it and get it good and hard, and socialism is when they don't even have to ask for it. That said, what you made me think is, I had such trouble falling asleep last night with that thought. Oh my God, these people are just nuts. What if one of them wins? But then I thought it might be very instructive, and not just for the reason that you said that maybe the way to get over this fever of socialism that people appear to be catching is to let it run its course.
To have some,
is to burn it out with a really hot fever. But there is an idea that I think George Will floated years and years ago, that what if Mike Dukakis had actually won in 1988? Very unlikely, right? But you would have had the 8 amazing years of Reagan, and then 4 awful years of Mike Dukakis, with that 90-91 recession resulting in a Republican president being elected in 1992. And you would have had bookends of awesomeness with 4 years of Democrat crap right in the middle of it. And it would have been very instructive. It would have been very, very helpful for the American electorate.
That's a good word. Instructive is what I was looking for.
Yes, I think that is the right word. Thank you. So what if one of these nut jobs were to win in 2020? Well, it might not be such a bad thing. I would miss President Trump and all of his frolicking adventures in the Twitter sphere, but we would have 8 dour years of Obama, and then 4 to 8 dour years of whoever follows Donald Trump. But in the middle, 4 years of strong growth and record tax revenue with a improved new tax law, and kicking China where it counts, and all the other good things that we've gotten in this time period. And maybe that is the lesson Americans need to learn. But I hope not. I hope Trump wins in 2020, and I hope he wins decisively so we can double down on some of this awesomeness. Yeah, you and me both. All 3 of us, I think. And that is your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like programs like this, and I know I do, please click on over to BillWhittle.com, become a member. You could be one of the producers of fine content. Well, of content such as you've just seen. So click on over. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.